We'll use this time now to acknowledge that this production takes place on the unceded territories of the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam people.
Our intention for this podcast is to provide a space where survivors can share with us their lived experiences and what it was like for them to navigate health and wellness after residential school.
Hello, Ublami, good morning, and welcome to Woven Spirit Threads of Wisdom, a podcast hosted by youth where we interview survivors of residential and day school. Our objective is to provide a space where survivors can share their wisdom and help to bridge gaps in dialogue surrounding survivors and their stories. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge this production is taking place on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. My name is Olivia Kate Iatridis. I'm an Inuk, a part of the Inuvialuit settlement region, and my mother is from Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories, and I'll be your host on today's episode. Before we get started, I just want to remind our viewers and listeners to like and share this video and subscribe so that you don't miss any other episodes of Woven Spirit. On this episode, we'll be discussing the life of today's guest, John Jones. Thank you so much for being here, John. I'd love to give you an opportunity now to introduce yourself to start us off.
Hello. My name is Tse'qualmut. That name was given to me by my grandmother from Snitnawis. And my other name is John. I'm originally from Nanaimo.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'm just going to jump right in. I understand that attending residential school for you was part of a larger battle. For those who don't know, you were one of the first people to get involved in the Blackwater versus Plint case in the 90s, which was the first trial against residential schools in Canada. Can you tell me a little bit how you got involved in that and what that was like for you?
I was working at a treatment center, and I got a phone call one day from Melvin Good, and he told me about that he's going to be charging Mr. Plint with abuse issues and he asked me if I would like to join. That was a real scary day. The secrets that I'd kept for so many years, that I kept hidden, I thought to myself, I'm going to have to start talking about it. And as the planning for the court case came up, it seemed like we were getting stronger. At the very beginning, the lawyers asked if there was any organizations that would stand beside us and if we could get a hold of them. And I understand their fear back then because I felt that same fear, because there was only one organization that stood with us at the trial. And going through that process was hard because I disconnected with a friend that I had made at residential school, and he got to thinking that once he starts talking, that the people at the residential school were going to come and get him. And his fear in that, and he believed it so much that he committed suicide. And I really thought about that day, like it felt like darkness fell over the court case, and for me individually, and I didn't know if I wanted to go on with it. And during the trial in Port Alberni, the court called a break, and I wanted to be left alone all by myself. I wanted my space away from him. And I got locked into this room at the courthouse, and not too long after that, some guards walk in Mr. Plint and locked him in the same room as me. And I'm standing there looking at him, and a voice in my head is just saying, go and kill him. But the words of the old people came to mind, that hatred ain't gonna get me anywhere. So I just stared at him and tried to forgive him. He did something to me that can't be forgiven. I still have my wounds. And another part of the trial was we were supposed to meet with the church organization, the spokesperson, and they wanted us to meet in their hotel room. And they asked us what we wanted. And I told them that I want an apology in my traditional ceremonial place. That's what I want, like to go into the longhouse where my people gather and apologize. In a way, there's no apology. You fix things, and that's. They said no. The only thing that they would do is to say sorry in the hotel room. And if we mentioned it outside the hotel room, they would deny it. So that was my experience of the trial. Like, I can remember days like coming back from the trial, going to the place where we were meeting, and it felt like all my energy and strength was drained. And there was a time I remember I just walked to this corner and sank down and cried. And that was the trial. Like, it was hard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think another aspect that we often forget was that there was a time before as well. You told me that you went to residential school at age 7.5. Do you have any memories from before that time as well?
My memories, first of all, I'll say that my life is different. I had a younger sister. Our life was different compared to our older siblings. My parents kept us home, and there's 7 children. From 7 children, my mom and dad went down to 2 children. The rest were away at residential school.
Yeah.
And we, like that time that we spent with our parents and family, I think that was our stronghold, me and my younger sister. We really got introduced to a lot of our culture, got introduced to a lot of our family. We did things, and I seen some things in the longhouse that I don't see today. And like those strengths that were given to us as young children, I believe in my heart that those teachings kept us alive. The family back then was everything. Like, to be with family is indescribable when it comes to the happy moment. And when we need each other, we're there for each other. It's just the way I was brought up.
It's the best, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, all that being said, obviously you've been on a long healing journey, and from what I understand, you kind of started your healing journey before a lot of people were talking about it, or at least before it was openly spoken about. What was the motivating factor for you to start that journey in a time where that just wasn't really a thing?
At the beginning of me and my wife's relationship, I was angry. I was full of rage. And me and my wife got to talking, and we wanted to work this out. And I thought it was issues between me and my wife. What I discovered is that the rage, the anger, had roots to their residential school. And a lot of the services that I accessed at the beginning of my healing journey, I paid for, or the place that I worked for paid for through a wellness program. There wasn't the resources that there is today in the 90s. When I first started healing, I could remember my wife driving me to this workshop where I was going to be staying for a few days. And I looked around where we were going. When we got there were white people. Like, I'm going to be healing, and these people, but those white people that were at the conference, at the healing, they stood by me through my pain. And that's when I started getting over my fear of white people, because some of them were still friends, and we healed together. And there's some of the things that went through my head that if I had listened to it, I would have stopped growing a long time ago. But, healing for me, I think my grandmother on my mom's side and my stepfather's side used to talk to me about feelings, and they used to acknowledge me anytime if I was feeling happy, they would be happy for me, and if something was wrong, they would ask me to come to them and talk to them about what was happening with me. And it was like they could sense what was happening. And I got to talk to my grandmothers a lot about my feelings. My grandmothers were really inspirational. My stepfather was enormous. I believe my first day of healing, as my stepfather had called me to a dining room table and told me that what he was seeing in me, like, I've been drinking a lot, I've been fighting a lot, I've been disrespectful to my mother and family. And she asked me to sit down, and he started telling me about his experience at residential school. And then while he was talking, I started crying. And I cried and I cried. And after I finished crying, he reached over the table and said, "Welcome back. Human beings are allowed to talk about their problems. Human beings are allowed to feel their feelings. Welcome back, son." I think that was my first day of healing. And another part of my healing was going into the Longhouse. I got initiated in 1977. Back then I didn't know who I was. I was told at residential school that I'm a stupid, no good Indian and would be no good for nothing. But that going into the Longhouse gave me a sense of who I am and where I belong. That there are different healing levels at different stages of my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, and speaking to that as well, the different kind of sections of healing in your life, I understand that you've done a lot of advocacy work as well and continue to, and I was wondering, was that ability to heal and to teach others healing something that you think you were born with, or do you think that's something that you've learned to possess over time?
I was trained to do what I was doing and not knowing I was being trained for it. When I was younger, in my 20s, before that, my parents used to take me and visit with them. And the times that they would go and visit is when they used to go and help people. And one day my stepfather says, "This young man, he's drinking too much. He's disrespectful to his wife and children. He beats his children and wife up. He doesn't listen to his parents. Go and talk to him." And the first thing that popped into my head is that I'm just as bad as he is. But that was learning. I talked to the young man, but I learned that I have to deal with my issues before I could help people.
Absolutely.
And I remember sitting in college doing a introduction to psychology course, and they were going over the professional ethics of psychology. And while they were going through that, I was wondering, how come this is sounding so familiar? It was taught to me by my grandmothers and my stepfather that the way that we looked after people, there was a place and a person that took care of that. And that training is still alive today. Some people ain't aware of it. And the name that I carry has a responsibility to help people. And that's my role. Like, I hope that I'm following my grandmother's and my stepfather's way as good as they want.
Yeah. That's great. And you know, it sounds to me like you're saying a little bit that, you know, helping others and healing others is a part of your healing as well. What are some like really important things to you in your like self-care and healing practices, just day to day even?
In my own healing, I discovered and I strongly suggest that you make your place where you live your safe place. For me, it was my wife and my children. They needed to be safe as well as me. So my stronghold is my family, my wife, my children, now my grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They know that we can spend days or weeks apart and sometimes even months, but they know that we love each other. And the freedom to be who you are in my house is encouraged. And like so much of our history, we've lost control of it. It was taken away from us. And in addiction too, that control is taken away. Until you establish a stronghold, the place where you live, to be a safe place, things and opportunities will grow. Being safe at home, it is hard sometimes, because in this world that we grow up in, there are some homes that aren't safe. And sometimes it takes a lot of courage to get up and leave that darkness. I encourage you, if you want a better life, to create a safe home, even if it means moving away from the home that creates you harm. Home should be a safe place. And that's...
Yeah, absolutely, at its core, at least. Yeah. Do you have any advice for me and my fellow youth out there?
Yes, I do. You've opened something in your life, and when you find your enjoyment in it, follow it. Like, life has opportunities, and when you're doing something and you're happy, follow it with your heart as well as your head. And sometimes you might find that this is the right place for you. And sometimes, like in my life, there's a time to move on. At the later part of my age now, the advice is to make memories that count, to live your life with no regrets, to be who you are as a person. And that's the best gift you can give yourself and anybody else.
Totally. It's so funny that you said your heart and your head, because this is just kind of like a random question that I've been asking. Do you think in your life you tend to listen to your heart or your head more when you make decisions?
When when I know I'm in that safe place and I make a decision with my heart and my head and my spirit, I know the comfort in it. And I still return to my old ways. Sometimes I think the world operates just from a thinking capacity.
Yeah.
And that's not right.
Totally. Absolutely. Well, that's all the questions that I have. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your thoughts and your wisdom. It's very valuable to us and me and everybody at home. And that being said, if you're still with us, I want to say thanks for watching and listening, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Woven Spirit, Threads of Wisdom. If you did, please leave us a like and a comment, or drop a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so that hopefully these conversations can reach even more ears across Turtle Island. Kuyanini, thank you, and see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Woven Spirit, Threads of Wisdom. We understand that the stories shared today may be challenging or triggering. If you need support, please reach out to our crisis line, available 24/7 at 1-800-721-0066. Remember, you don't have to navigate these feelings alone. Support is always here for you.